This is Let's Talk Business with your host, Marc Ebinger. Now, here's Mark.
Welcome back to the Let's Talk Business podcast. Coming up on the show today, we're going to talk about the impact of the NAR settlement and a local community development in the Victoria area. What's the name of that project?
Victoria Commons.
Victoria Commons.
But a lot of just the downtown development and what's happening with a lot of the space downtown.
Yeah, it's nice to see it being revitalized down there. In studio with us today is Aden Stiles, a commercial real estate expert with Phyllis Browning, who identifies as a recovering CPA. Aden, welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
I like realtors who know numbers, right?
I try.
Yeah.
I try.
I'm your host, Marc Ebinger, the owner of Guirguis Virtual Staffing, a company that recruits and staffs experienced overseas administrative assistants for insurance agents who need help with policy management, claims processing, and client communication. If you're curious about the most common tasks that virtual assistants are doing for businesses, head over to our website at guirguis.com and grab our list of the top 20 tasks that VAs are doing for businesses like yours. Link is in the podcast description.
All right. And I'm Keaton Frieberg and owner of Texas Lawsuits
Texas Lawsuits.
Texas Suits Law Firm, where we work with business and real estate owners to handle their transactional and litigation needs.
All right. Glad you got it figured out. And I'm Emad Guirguis, owner of SimpliBookkeeping, where we help small business owners understand their finances better, make sure they're tracking their goals, and make tax season a breeze.
You know, Imad's one of those guys that sneaks up on you. You think he's such a nice guy.
Right.
You know what I mean? You don't expect it, and he slams you with some kind of burn.
Until you get to know him, then you just know that's...
You know what's coming?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm getting to realize that a little bit.
What you got to do.
All right, a quick reminder to follow the Let's Talk Business podcast on all major podcast platforms and social media where you can catch video versions of the show. You can get to everything easily from our website at satalkradio.com. All right, so let's get into this NAR settlement stuff. Okay, so is it what everybody expected, or did something sneak up on us, and what's the impact?
I mean, as best I can tell, it's a huge nothing burger. It's much to do about nothing.
Money. It's much to do about money for lawyers.
Exactly.
Oh, sorry. Did I say that out loud?
No, I mean, it has caused all sorts of additional paperwork and confusion, quite frankly, and done very little in the market. And, you know, there's a couple different things that it was intended to do, but when you really boil it down, the main thing is that the buyer commission is no longer advertised or listed on the MLS.
But the buyer's agent still gets a commission, right?
Well, correct. In most cases.
It's negotiated.
It's negotiable. But the thought, if you believe it, behind the thrust of the lawsuit was that sellers that were offering less than a quote, or in this case, call it a 3% buyer commission, were staying on the market longer, were not getting as much exposure because realtors were pushing a listing that was offering, say, 3% commission as opposed to 2.5 or 2, something like that. And so since August 17th or whatever, that commission field has been removed from the MLS. So you can't see what the buyer commission is if the seller is even offering one.
So how does one find out about how much the buyer's commission is going to be?
So a number of ways. But the main thing now is I just get a million calls all the time from agents asking me, hey, what are you offering as far as a buyer commission on your listings?
And that's the only way to convey right now.
Sort of.
Oh, jeez. All right.
Which is where this gets silly. So there's no longer a buyer commission line in the MLS. However, they have added now a seller concession line.
So they just reworded it, right?
So if it just so happens that your seller is willing to pay, let's just say 3% of the buyer commission, you can put 3% seller concession on your listing.
What a joke. I'm telling you, as a layperson, this whole thing's a complete joke.
Then what a lot of other agents are doing now is let's say I'm going to list a $100,000 property. Well, some people are listing it for $100,003 because it just so happens that my seller is also going to pay a 3% commission.
Yeah. At the end of the day, the market's going to determine what the market's going to pay.
Exactly. And so even if the seller isn't offering a buyer commission, let's say, and the buyer now has to pay it, it's going to come out of the deal one way or another on the price, on seller concessions, on something. I mean, it has had, as best I can tell, no impact on the market.
And why do you think it's going to come out of the deal either way? Just because traditionally
somebody's going to pay it, whether it be the buyer or the seller. And so if the buyer has to pay it, they're going to,
get it somewhere else.
They're going to come down on the price. They're going to come, ask for seller concessions, some way, shape, or form.
I'm going to suggest that it was never the intent to do away with a buyer's commission. It was never that intent.
No.
It was only like, hey, here's some confusion in the language and an opportunity to do some suing. And some lawyers came up with the idea, let's go do this. And what was the settlement? How much?
Oh, like $400 million or something like that?
Yeah, well, what's 20% of that?
Right.
That's a lot of money that went to fees and stuff just to create a whole big nothing burger, back to your point.
Right. And look, what I'll call it the good old days of, call it 6 months ago, is typically when you signed a listing agreement, you agreed to, at that time, what you were going to pay your seller and what you were going to pay for a buyer commission. And it's always been negotiable, first of all. But you could say, you could say 3 and 3 or, whatever you want to do. And that was fine. And that's still, to this day, the same case. However, the buyer can make their offer with a different commission. And so I've had a couple deals now where the seller was supposedly only offering a 1% commission, and we made our offer and said, no, this is the buyer commission, and then it just became a negotiation point, as it should be.
Do you think that's a positive sign then that came out of this?
I mean, I guess, more negotiation isn't a bad thing, but I think there's been a lot more. I think probably the best thing to come out of it is there's a lot more clarity around buyer commissions, because now, if you call me up and you say, hey, I want to go take a look at a house. Back in the good old days of 6 months ago, I could just take you. But now I actually have to have a buyer representation agreement signed with you where I explain, okay, look, hey, if you buy a house, here's what I'm going to get paid one way or another, whether it comes out of your pocket or the seller's pocket, whatever.
They systemize that, which is actually, I guess, a little bit better for the realtor as well, because you're just ensuring that, hey, we're doing an agreement,
right?
Here.
And it definitely has, I think, culled, if you will, a lot of tire kickers out of the market that just want to go look at something, but they don't want to sign a buyer representation agreement or a contract with a realtor, which is not a bad thing.
Go over the buyer representation agreement. Tell us some of the parameters of it.
So the buyer representation agreement can be very open-ended or very closed, and it just says that if you engage, if we sign a buyer representation agreement and you agree, you buy a house either in a certain area that we define or a certain address, could just be one home, I will get paid X amount. Okay. And that has to happen within X period of time. And so, you can do simple things like, if you're just trying out a realtor, for say, you can do a buyer representation agreement just for a weekend. Hey, if I buy a house this weekend in Bexar County, you'll get paid. Or it can be, hey, if I buy a house in the state of Texas for the next 2 years, you can make it as open-ended and closed-ended.
Are you finding that your consumer buyers are knowledgeable because of the NAR lawsuit on the fact that they can negotiate that rep agreement, or is it pretty standardized?
Oh, no, we are required to make sure that they understand it is negotiable.
That we can negotiate the geographical scope, the duration. Okay.
Correct.
How do you say that, though? Here's the agreement, but, you don't have to agree to this if you don't want to, but, you just go ahead and sign right there.
Right.
How does that go?
Well, obviously, it depends upon person to person. Are they referral? Are they just some cold, person that you just met off the street, whatever it is. Typically, most of the clients that I'm dealing with, I know, or that know me, know that what I do. So I just say, hey, look, here's the agreement, and we talk about their goals and their timeline, and say, okay, look, if the goal is to get a house in the next 3 months, let's set it for 3 months. And
so what if you get somebody that maybe is a little bit assertive, we'll say, not aggressive, we'll say assertive, and they put 3.5% down there. It's like, hey, I'm really good at marketing. This is what I do. I know all this stuff. I'm great. I'm fantastic. I have a podcast, whatever your deal is. But you're like, it's 3.5%. So they may think, yeah, that's fine. I don't really care. It's not a problem. When they go to the seller, when the seller has said, well, we're paying 3%. Now you're at 6.5%. What happens then?
So it's an interesting situation because that does happen. So in that situation, the seller commission or the seller paid buyer commission is less than my contracted commission with my buyer. The buyer would bring the extra 0.5% at closing to the table.
Okay.
And
unless the buyer says, no, I don't want to do that, we're just going to have to do something with the price here. But that's all a negotiation.
Correct.
But have you seen that happen yet?
No, I've seen it happen the other way, where the seller is offering less than the buyer than what the buyer has agreed, and that in those cases, we've always made the ground. Typically,
you want to close the deal at the end of the day.
and typically because the seller, knows that here's the offer, and that's it,
and they don't want to pay more than 6%.
Right.
Is that still the standard 6, or has it gone down?
Well, the standard is a. You can't say standard. I mean, but
Well, I can because I don't.
Well,
I'm
you
not licensed.
Who are you? Nothing is standardized as far as commissions are
It's
concerned.
all
Is it
negotiable.
normal, or is it common?
I would say it is common practice that it's 3% to the buyer, 3% to the seller.
Gotcha. All right.
You can put a disclaimer if you want.
Yeah,
too.
big asterisk right there.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I see these suits come across our desk, just breach of contract. It has to do with sellers, agent suing what would have been their client that they were representing because the seller, not the agent, but the seller went and sold their home during that scope of time, the duration in which they were working with another agent. So what that meant is that they went and contracted with another agent who sold the property within that time period.
Mess.
So messy from so many different angles.
Right.
So I've never seen it before from the buyer standpoint, but now that buyers' representation agreements are going to arguably be more commonplace, I'm wondering if we're going to see some stuff like that.
Oh, I guarantee you there's going to be a lot of lawsuits that are going to start coming out of the woodwork where, just like you said, I signed a buyer representation agreement with you, and you, the buyer, didn't understand how long it lasted or something, and then the next weekend you call another agent and you go put a contract with that agent, whatever, you go buy a house, then the other agent's going to come after you. I mean, those lawsuits I think are going to be becoming very prevalent.
Fog of war of real estate, but it was designed by attorneys. Sorry,
Right.
but that's where we end up because it's just a bit of a feeding frenzy.
Right.
You know
What's your deal against attorneys?
I don't have. I was going to be a lawyer at one point, and I love and respect the profession. I think it's amazing, but it's very shrewd. It's very harsh. I would like to have played as an attorney back in the day, but I chose to be a cop instead. So,
Right.
I mean, there you go. No hard feelings.
Yeah.
None taken. Just had to say it.
Matter of fact, some of my best friends are attorneys. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
So,
Now, and the other kind of thing that, if you believe them, the lawyers and everything for this whole settlement was that the end goal was to make housing more affordable.
sounds like the government.
Right.
I got a question. With this in place now, though, does it give the realtors more of a playing opportunity for negotiation, like we were all saying? So, if you're more skilled now, you can actually go out and get more, and you've got more of an opportunity to actually earn.
Absolutely.
And kind of
But then also you have to deliver.
But
Because if you say, I'm worth 3.5%, 4%. Well, you better deliver that at a
Right.
high level. Otherwise, you're going to get called on it pretty quick.
Well, I mean, maybe he can get more out of the deal or get other items that other realtors probably couldn't have.
Right,
without
or
that
a larger
additional-
network. I can reach out
Right.
to find off-market property, all sorts of
Yeah,
things.
depending on the whole deal as a whole. So it really depends on now level of scale. Now it's just giving it more of a broader band of what you can do.
I might go into real estate. I'm just saying. I kind of like the whole negotiation
Well,
side.
then
Yeah.
now you're going to be subject to all the terms that you couldn't say earlier.
Yeah, that's true.
Exactly.
But I'm not right now.
That's right.
Make sure it says of this
Yeah, date stamp.
Yeah. Asterisk.
There you go.
So it was originally intended to make housing more affordable and transparency, right? I mean, I'll take off the
Yeah,
funny glasses here
transparency.
for a second. It's really to bring out more transparency
Correct.
because people are feeling like, hey, I didn't want this, I didn't sign up for this, and this is the way things are going. I get it. And then, but what we're seeing shake out is that it's going to be a little bit more confusing. There's going to be more paperwork. There's going to be more lawsuits. But the prices probably aren't going to be affected too much. Or do you
haven't-
think they will be?
I haven't seen any. I mean, I think the market has softened since August, but I think that has a lot to do with the market and not so much with the NAR side.
Other variables.
I mean, just in the last 10 days, interest rates have spiked over 7% again.
Well, then let's talk about interest rates. So what's
So-
going on?
They're not going down as a lot of people kind of expected, especially with the Fed dropping rates and everything. And I think they're not probably going down between now and the end of the year either. I mean, because there's a lot of people that I know of that have been kind of sitting on the sidelines saying, hey, I know the Fed's going to drop rates, let's wait, and then buy something at Christmas when no one's buying and we'll get a good deal.
Yeah, right, because that happens.
Right. And the good money right now, I think, is probably that Trump is going to win the election. But regardless, I think the overriding sentiment is that whoever wins, the stock market is going to continue to do better over the next couple months, at least in the short term. And if that happens, that probably means interest rates are going to continue to go up between now and the end of the year as well. Because if the stock market is still booming like it is right now, nobody wants to invest and buy a lame mortgage bond doing 5% interest or whatever. So mortgage bond rates have to go up to make it more attractive to find buyers to keep the housing market going.
So here's my challenge on that. So I think there's this, I don't know, it's an emotional formula or whatever about how people feel about the economy, right?
Right.
And
It's
this is
an
what
important
happened.
thing.
Yeah. So when Trump was pre-elect last time,
Right.
things started to go up, right? Because I think the vibe was, hey, it's going to be good for business,
Right.
yada, yada,
Yeah.
right? This is what I think will happen again. I think you're going to see the same thing. So once the emotion behind things starts to turn around, that things are going to get better and the expectation is there, I think we'll move in that direction. Now, we've already seen what a Trump administration does. We've seen what a Biden-Harris administration does. So this is nothing new, right?
Right.
The market's going to know how to react in those situations, but it's the emotional side of it that I think is going to have the biggest impact on the run-up between now and, let's say, March or April after
Right.
he takes office.
Right.
Just my thoughts. Copyright Batman. What? Did I impress you guys that much?
That was pretty good.
I'm
stunned.
That was all right.
Oh, I had a guy on last week where we talked about, we've seen this already in a Trump administration and we've seen a Biden-Harris administration. So the market doesn't have to freak out. But there is that feeling that comes behind it that
Right.
really can push things.
Of like, oh, hey, the businessman, quote unquote, is gonna let everyone loose and get after it, and let's get NVIDIA up to $20 million a share and everything
Well,
else.
and what's the Bitcoin? What do they call that? What's the
Cryptocurrency.
cryptocurrency?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people really excited about cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
What's going to happen because Trump's kind of made his positions known that he's all for it.
Right.
So which is kind of interesting too.
Yeah. Deregulation is a pretty
Right
interesting
around
thing.
the corner, yeah. But that's a big sandwich too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, the last 12 months have been kind of an interesting in that we've had all things considered, high interest rate, historically, not going back to like the 80s and everything like that, but, all things considered, we've had high interest rates and still kind of increasing prices. I mean, the San Antonio market is still pretty darn strong. You know, Austin's getting kicked in the teeth right now, but there's a lot of people. There's a lot of built up sentiment and a lot of built up buyers that think that they can just kind of sit on the sidelines and wait for prices to come down, interest rates to come down, and it's not happening.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the fair market value of homes, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I kind of feel like San Antonio has kind of always just been a little slow and steady, rather than Austin, who had this huge spike and then that fall. So
yeah, we're the little engine that just keeps on
going. I like it.
Right.
I like it.
Yeah, well, I mean, San Antonio is growing, but I mean, we're going out, right? I mean, we're kind of pushing.
Right.
Kind of.
What do you mean?
Well, we're going to get into a little bit of the more
Urban
inner growth that's going on here a little bit later.
Right.
Yeah, well, the inner city growth, but okay, tell me if I'm wrong or tell me where I'm wrong, but aren't people still buying on the outskirts?
Oh yeah, big time.
Okay.
Big time. But I will give you a little cautionary thing of just saying people want to move out there to the outskirts. They're not necessarily, that's not the most desirable location. It's just so dang affordable. Because apples to apples, a $350,000 home, out Calabria on the west side or the east side in one of these new build communities compared to a $350,000 house in San Antonio proper, a pre-owned home. The new builds are exceptionally more affordable because the builders are offering rate buy downs, 4.99% rates right now. All your closing costs paid, and you get lower taxes because you're out in the country. So, I mean, you're talking a lot of money that makes it much more attractive. And it's new construction.
Yeah.
Yeah, it comes with a warranty, new air conditioning, everything. Yeah. So it's a
house in the inner city comes out with cast iron pipes. You know what I mean? Which you're going to have to replace as soon as it gets inspected.
Right, and a 20-year-old air conditioning unit.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, those are those hidden costs that come with buying a home. But I think also people, it's new, right? It's a new area. There isn't the old neighborhood issues that maybe come with it. If it's run down or whatever, right? It's new, it's shiny, it's whatever. I think that's attractive too for people wanting to move, but not necessarily the long drive to get to wherever it is they got to get to. So
now, there's been an interesting dynamic, and I mentioned this earlier, with these new construction neighborhoods where people have lived there for 3 years or so, and you would hope that they have a little equity built up now because they've been there for years. But because the builder is still building in that particular community, the newer home might be $50,000 more expensive, but it's still more affordable than their pre-owned home just down the street.
Because of the deals.
And so you have a lot of people in these new, quote-unquote, new build communities that are getting pinched because they have no equity in their home, but they need to move for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so this has brought this whole kind of, well, it's not a new idea, but it's been exploding lately of buying homes subject to. And it's called subject to, or buying a home subject to the mortgage, where a buyer comes in and approaches these homeowners with no equity, but they have, let's say, a killer 2.75% rate on their mortgage. And the buyer just says, all right, look, I'm going to give you $20,000. The deed goes into my LLC, but you keep the mortgage in your name, and you give me login credentials to your mortgage portal.
Yeah, and a power of attorney.
And then I hook up my bank account to your mortgage.
Yeah, but what happens if they miss a payment? Whose credit's going to take the hit?
Theirs. I mean, it's
the person that's original.
Can you write that where you're like a minimum of like 3 months ahead or 6 months ahead in the payments?
Oh, of course, absolutely. You can write it.
Would that be a smart thing to do?
Well, I would say so. Yeah. Well, depending on what side you're on. But yeah, no, absolutely. And these things do happen.
They're quite common now because of all of these exact scenarios.
And so the worrisome part that I always caution clients on when they're entering into these transactions is technically you're not supposed to do it pursuant to the due on sales clause, but I have never seen the due on sales clause invoked. I've seen it invoked, but only when it's a non-performing note.
Right.
That it can happen.
As long as the bank's getting paid.
they're usually fine.
That's what we say, but if there's a shift in things, maybe policy or whatever,
Or-
your cheeks are in the wind.
Or
Oh,
a
yeah.
5% disparity in interest rates that they could potentially increase. That's the thing that had been worrying me.
Right.
Is that could be a reason why they might call a note due or accelerate the note.
And if those start get those types of, what'd you call them?
Subject to.
Subject twos get bought out by bigger corporations, and then the little guy's never going to be able to fight against a bigger corporation if they decide to just, all right, we're not paying anymore. Go ahead and sue us, but this is a major corporation that you're not going to beat them in these types of situations. There's a lot of vulnerability there.
Oh no, it's a dicey situation.
There's risk,
no doubt.
but there's also a lot of win, a lot of upside for both parties. But there is definitely risk associated with it.
Well, couldn't the homeowner just turn around and rent it themselves?
They could, but they need, for whatever reason, they typically need the cash.
Yeah.
Oh.
Positioning.
Yeah. And so the times I've seen it happen is, the homeowner needs cash for some reason, or they're moving, and they need, hey, it costs thousands of dollars to move, and if they don't have it, they're in a bind.
That's a crazy shift because when those come across my desk, it's because somebody's backs up against the wall, foreclosure's looming or something like that. And so, selling the property is a really easy solution to get out, right? Doing the subject twos. But I haven't heard about it as much in that space of just somebody who's actually doing fine. They just need to move and don't have any equity to move.
Right. And this is all these situations have also highlighted what an absolute crock solar panels are. Because people think that, I just owe $300,000 on my house, but they also have a $30,000 solar panel lien, and now they got real negative equity on their house. And I mean, solar panels are just the biggest scam for residential homeowners. Don't ever get solar panels.
All right, so break that down then. Why? What are the top 2 reasons why it's a scam in your mind?
Solar panels. I've done the math. I'm a CPA. I'm not dumb, but I know a little bit, right? Just the break even on without it factoring in inflation or anything else, just the break even on solar panels is 18 to 21 years. And that is a horrible investment. And on top of that, a lot of people don't know that when you get solar panels, you have to be properly insured, you have to get an insurance rider to also cover the removal and the reinstallation of your panels. And so if you get a hailstorm and you have to replace your roof, just removing and replacing your panels can be sometimes like $10,000. Oh, jeez. And so, I mean, they are insanely expensive and provide very little monetary benefit. They make you feel good. You're saving the planet, whatever. But, they don't. They're a terrible investment.
Yeah, that and electric cars. I don't get that either. Electric cars are stupid. California, they want to go all electric by 2035 or something. You got
the grid can't handle it.
No, it can't handle it now.
Right.
And then like semi trucks, they wanted to go electric with semi trucks. It's way too heavy. Those batteries are.
Right.
So it's just like, I don't know who's thinking up these policies, but I think they're all stupid.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, and what's even worse too is that a lot of the seller or the solar salesmen sell homeowners into thinking, it's going to add value. It adds $0 of value on an appraisal. Zero. Now it might add,
and it comes with a lien.
And it comes with a lien.
Yeah.
Now it might add marketability to the right buyer that doesn't know any better and is like, I got solar panels. They're going to help offset my bills. But no, it adds zero value to your home.
Crazy.
That's my rant on solar panels.
I'm just mind blown.
He's over there just watching the show.
I'm just enjoying this thing. So I know you said you did the math for it, but how much typically on energy bills do solar panels actually save you?
That's a loaded question because you don't. I mean, how many panels?
Right,
how big's the home?
big,
It's tough to say. So, for example, I was looking at a home for an investor who was actually looking at trying to do a subject to deal, and the payment, it was about a 3,000 square foot home, 21 build, and the payment was $175 a month for the panels, and there was $38,000 left on the loan for the panels alone. And I want to say on average, the energy bill, because I just took all the 12 months data and averaged it, and it was like this $50 a month still for energy. So, I mean, that's not great.
So I see where it would make sense is if the savings is greater than the actual financed cost of the solar panels.
Exactly.
Okay.
So if the average, an average of $50 on top of 175, that's for 12 months. That's a pretty juicy energy bill. And so if there can be times where you get paid back, because sometimes the panels can actually feed the grid and CPS will pay you for the power you deliver to the grid. But just, in that case, they're paying on average $225 a month for energy.
Must have had like 2 or 3 teenagers in the house.
Right. So that is just.
Now, unless you're a house that has like 3 electric cars, you're running everything,
right.
And then it's actually becomes beneficial because then you're not paying for gas, you're actually using all the electricity, and then the solar panels could feed it. So to your point, yeah, sometimes it could be beneficial, but like you're saying, most times it actually doesn't.
Yeah, typically not.
Got it.
Yeah, that's why when they sell them, they sell to your emotions, not to your finances.
Right. Unless somebody actually breaks down the math like you and I would, of course.
All right, so let's talk about your revitalization that's going on downtown, the Victoria Development, Victoria Commons, West People's Homes.
So I'm so excited about this. Just in the last month or just the last couple of weeks, there have been 2 major projects that have been announced just off of Market Street and at the Hemisphere and just at South Alamo that are contributing to all of this development downtown San Antonio. There's rumors right now floating everywhere that the Spurs are going to get a new arena at the Hemisphere or at the Texas Institute of Culture across 281 from the Alamo Dome.
Good area.
Oh, it's a great
I
area.
mean, right underneath the tower.
Right.
Are they going to do away with the tower?
No.
Okay, good.
Well, at least not yet. Not that I'm aware of. Apparently, it is in not great shape though, structurally. But
that's scary.
yeah.
That's it.
I guess I'm never going there again.
Right.
I can't now.
Yeah.
There's no way. I love that place.
It's just fine.
Yeah, it's fine, but it
Aiden's
is.
just
Nope,
messing
it's
with
not
you.
going to happen. Not going to happen.
So I am the listing agent for 50 homes that we are building just 3 blocks from Hemisphere right now.
Now, is that the Victoria Commons? 'Cause
That is Victoria Commons.
Isn't there only 63 homes that are going to be developed?
There's going to be
there?
63 in total. We have 50
50
of
of
them.
them. Well, good job getting 50.
Yeah.
And so just in the last month, they've announced that Oxbow, which is a arm of Silver Ventures that did the Pearl, Oxbow is doing their next kind of big project just off of Market Street at South Alamo. That's going to be a mixed-use project with retail and like 300 apartments.
There we go.
And then we've got another 250 apartments that were just announced like last week that are going to go at Hemisphere. I mean, the area is just going to explode in the next 5 years.
I like that combination of residential and retail. I think that's cool.
Yeah,
Right.
It's
makes it
very
more-
metrosexual.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And we're and so the Victoria Commons townhomes,
Took a second.
we're poised, we're in the middle of it. And so we have these beautiful 2- and 3-story homes that are in walking distance of everything that is going up down there. They're even in talks to put in a 10 or 15 foot wide trail that's going to connect downtown to Southtown.
And it's
gonna
making a
go-
nice walkway, right?
Yeah, it's going to go right by
nice.
Victoria Commons.
Okay.
And so, we have, 50 of the top of the nicest luxury homes going up right next to and in the middle of all the revitalization in this new kind of sports area that they're putting
So
in.
help alleviate my curiosity, we'll say, that this is because it's a low income situation,
No, these
it's subsidized somehow, is it not?
so the Victoria this area, the Victoria Commons is previously been known as Victoria Courts.
I remember. That's
Which
why I'm
was-
bringing it up, because
right.
I was a cop in those days.
Right, which was back in the day Section 8 housing.
Yes.
But it has now been is now being developed in much more higher end ability, or in much more higher end units.
But what kind
However,
of subsidy is being offered for people to live there? Because isn't there some discounts or something there?
No.
Okay, good.
Now, but they're not on, at least not on our homes. Now there will be another apartment complex in the Victoria Courts that is going to go up between our townhomes and 281.
So let me understand this. So you're going to have upscale right next to Section 8?
No. It's not going to be Section 8.
Okay.
So they're
is
all
it low income housing?
No,
Okay.
no. All the low income housing of Victoria Courts is gone.
All of it is.
Correct.
They're not going to be mixing and mingling this stuff together, because the high income stuff, that values will just fall off.
Right. Yeah.
really quick.
No, we're not doing that.
So now the Section 8 stuff, the low income stuff, has been pushed out of the inner city. Is that what's happening?
I don't know. I mean, there hasn't been Section 8 on Victoria Courts for
I know.
decades.
But we're definitely not bringing it back.
Right. So there is still some pockets of Section 8 in the downtown area, but there's Victoria Commons abuts Lee Street that has $800,000 homes, and so it is in a very quote unquote very nice area.
What's the goal there? Is it really to transform that whole area downtown? Is it going to become the place to be?
Absolutely. I mean, there was they released the code name Project Marvel is what San Antonio has dubbed the whole sports area project.
As long as they don't say Atlantis.
Right.
We don't want that.
Yeah. There have been rumored to be plans that just north of Victoria Commons, again, within walking distance of my project, there's going to be a land bridge that connects Hemisphere to the Alamo Dome. So if and when a Spurs arena goes in at the Texan Institute of Culture, you can just walk across 281 to all the parking lots right there. And you have kind of double duty parking lots.
That's what people and tourists want. That they want to come to a city, have a great downtown experience, be able to go have fun, and stay at an Airbnb that's in a shopping area or whatever. People want that.
And the goal is to make downtown much more of a walkable town.
Yeah, you don't want to have to Uber
Right.
30, 40 minutes to get anywhere.
Right.
I love that.
And so, that's why the plan between just the Oxbow project and just Hemisphere with 550 units going in plus retail. I mean, just in 2 blocks of each other, downtown is going to be huge.
What's when's it going to be done?
Who knows? Probably 2027.
It's not that far.
Yeah, not that far away.
Are we talking about your listings?
Oh, no, my listings are. We finished our first unit on Friday, actually.
Oh, congrats.
So
Very nice.
we are ready to roll.
You're on the market.
We are on the market and staged, and office hours are starting next week.
All right. Tell me about the unit.
So we've got all of our townhomes are between $600,000 and $800,000. We have 2- and 3-story homes, 2-car garages on all of them. But one of the beautiful things about them is that we have these just massive, oversized balconies that give you huge, beautiful views of the San Antonio skyline, of the Alamo Dome, of the Tower of Americas, and again, you can see them and just walk to them. I mean, you're there. And so, people that want to live downtown have a great opportunity to move there, but also people that want to just maybe invest and get ahead of the curve and have a unit that could be a killer Airbnb when all this development goes in. These are a perfect opportunity.
Do you have a percentage limit on how many can be Airbnbs? Or
The city does. The city.
What is
so
it,
the
2 per block?
The city, the standard is 12.5% of a block face can be investor Airbnb.
Which is? How many?
Well, it depends because it depends on which block you're looking at, which block face, because we have a couple different blocks. But if it's owner occupied and they also want to Airbnb, part of a bedroom, that effectively is unlimited. You can have as many people do that as you want.
I've heard that, especially with a 2-story, they'll rent the downstairs or whatever, but they're
Correct.
living in the upstairs. I guess
Correct.
you just have to separate the entryway somehow.
Right, and we have some units like that. We
Oh, really?
we have units that are technically a 3.5. However, the first floor has its own entrance and is a 1-1 efficiency. So somebody can live in the 2.5 upstairs with an office, and then Airbnb their first floor and not be subject to the 12.5% block face rule.
Was that intentional?
Very intentional.
Wow.
And so, and people have really kind of reacted well to that design because if you have parents that come in, they can live there for
You
a
can lock the
weekend,
door.
and then 99% of the year you can Airbnb it and supplement your income.
I love it. So what are these going for?
600 to 800.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, did I miss that?
It depends upon finish out and everything, but we can do a lot of we can, depending upon how soon you put one under contract, we can make some pretty significant changes as far as taste and designs and colors and things
Little
like that.
FOMO there.
Right.
Missing out.
Right. But I think they're going to be phenomenal homes.
So now is like the opportunity really to get in because
absolutely.
you're being able to create what you want, and the
Right.
price now is good.
Yeah, and
for the
we're offering the builders made it clear that anybody that wants to buy and anybody that closes before the year end we're going to make it a good deal for them. So
So I had part of my research dug up that something about workforce housing. Is that, units targeting families earning 40 to 60% of the area median income? So that's why I was leaning.
You're talking about the mixed-use apartments that are going on down the street, I think.
well that, but also there, and this is I think what that is next to Victoria Commons, and this is by no means a done deal or anything like that, but they're also trying to, and by they I mean Saha, which is now San Antonio. It used to be San Antonio Housing Authority, but now it's they've changed their name.
Right.
But they're wanting to put in something like, I'm going to say tiny homes, but tiny homes is the wrong word. But
Efficiency homes.
well,
maybe.
but stick build homes that are like a 2-2, 1,200 square feet, no garage, and that would be, and maybe they would sell for like 300 or so, 300,000, and there'd be just a parking lot for all the units.
How close is this to what you were talking about?
That would be
Victoria Commons.
that is on the land next door to Victoria Commons. Is there? The Saha is thinking about trying to get something like that going.
Don't you see that as a now maybe it's not anything that can be avoided, right? But if Saha is involved in it and it's going to be half the price or more than half the price less than the units you are building, don't you see that as a problem being in close proximity?
No, because there's so much development. I think, quite frankly, if those go up, they're going to sell overnight to one guy,
Yeah, okay.
and he's going to rent them out. Because, having 20 units that you can rent out right there in the middle of all this development, I think is, a slam dunk investment.
Well, I guess we'll see if
And I
Saha
think that
allows
the whole area around the Victoria Commons is just going to keep
Exactly.
I mean, that's what's happening already.
Right.
So property taxes will push out low income stuff. I see that as a thing, but I'm just confused by why this would be pushed there when we're trying to revitalize. But I see that as not going in the right direction next to $600,000 to $800,000 homes. To me, it's confusing.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to have the impact because there's so much money going into that area that it's just going to become the prices are going to start just jumping.
Yeah.
And investors are going to move in, people that want a second home downtown are going to move in, and just continue the trend of I don't want to say gentrification is an ugly word sometimes, but of gentrification.
Meaning what? Define that term.
Gentrification, I'm not sure the exact definition, but of taking a lower income neighborhood to a higher income classification. A lot of people tend to think that gentrification is driven by corporations and stuff like that, being greedy and driving home prices. But really the driver behind it is taxes. And so when values go up, taxes go up, and people can't afford homes, they got to move, and then they sell, and that's just kind of perpetuates the the cycle of real estate.
How dialed in are you on city property taxes?
Fairly dialed
Fairly?
in? I don't
I'm
know.
just curious because I've heard some bad things about property taxes going up in San Antonio, like with the commercial side.
Well, there's two facets to that. There's the tax rate and then the assessed value. For the most part, tax rates are fairly level. For example, a normal tax rate in Alma Heights or something would be about 2.3%, something like that, of assessed value. But if the assessment goes up a whole bunch, hey, 2.3% of 10 million is a lot more than 2.3% of 5 million. And so, again, going back to the gentrification, and I'll use a real world example. My childhood maid called me a little while ago and said, "Hey, I can't afford my home. I need help." And I went down to see her and checked it out and looked at her home, and she had never protested her property taxes. And so, and that's part of the problem is that the poor and uneducated might have paid off their home, but hey, they don't know about protesting taxes. They don't know about in this. And so this poor lady's house had doubled in value in 3 years. And, and she didn't even have her 65 exemption. I mean, she had all sorts of trouble that she hadn't taken care of. But, she ended up having to move because she couldn't afford the taxes. And so it wasn't the tax rate that got her, it was the assessed value that blew her budget up. And so, yes, taxes are typically going up because, hey, prices are going up in San Antonio.
Well, and that would take care of itself downtown with respect to your living areas, right? Or your housing areas. But if they're protected for some reason, it's like, well, this is going to get special treatment because over here it's not fair. Then that's where you end up with this situation where, you could have rich living next to, or the wealthy living next to the not wealthy, and you're going to have a bit of a clash there.
Right. And there's going to be that in perhaps the short term, but again, as development continues, prices go up, that's going to start evening out. I mean, that's just kind of the way of the world.
All right.
Yeah.
Y'all been quiet over there.
It's been great. Just been listening.
Yeah.
He's doing a great job.
Well, all right. Well, if folks want to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
Best thing, just give me a call, or 210-867-2564, or all the social media, Realtor with Stiles, Stiles, or Google Phyllis Browning, Aden Stiles, Victoria Commons, West People Home, Aden Stiles. I'm all over the place. So,
well, I'm excited about what you're doing. I love the revitalization of downtown. San Antonio is such a beautiful city, and it's good to see that good efforts going into building good homes and cool areas that people are going to want to come to San Antonio and spend time. And we like investment properties too. I saw you salivating over there about.
Yeah. Well, I like it too because it always feels like, because when my family comes to town, they always want to go downtown. It's like, God, we got to go downtown. Like, there's going to be so many people on the Riverwalk and
Parking.
Where am I going to park? Yeah, it's like $40 to park. But if there's more to do,
right.
And there's different areas to go to. I mean, the Pearl has been great because now we'll go visit the Pearl and we'll go to visit Southtown. So there's more of these pop up. It's going to get better and better. So
right.
I love it.
And I think on one of those developments that I mentioned, I think the Oxbow one, they're going to put in a 600 car garage. So, I mean, that's going to be a significant amount of parking right there for that development.
Huge.
Yeah, especially when you got a new Spurs game going on.
Right.
Or Spurs game going on at the new arena.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, and hopefully the arena is going to be announced here before the end of the year.
We need a football team, NFL football team.
Right. Well,
I'm not hating on these other ones, XFL or whatever it is, but I mean, it's not the NFL.
No, it is not.
I was like, that would be sweet. San Antonio something or others, right?
Right.
But maybe someday.
The boot kickers.
The boot. No, I don't like that.
Oh, okay.
Boot kickers. We end up being the boot lickers by the time our competition's done with us. What's up, boot lickers?
Shit kickers.
Yeah. By the way, Kansas City won again. I don't know what's the deals. Were they 7-0 now? I mean,
Yeah.
What's your NFL team, or do you have any favorites?
I mean, I'm more of a college guy, but I'll cheer for the Texans or the Cowboys.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I won't blame you for that. What about you, Emad?
I don't even watch TV.
Really? Do you watch football?
No.
Wow. I'm going to get a Kansas City Chiefs. Whoever's winning, that's who I support.
Right.
That guy.
No loyalty there.
Fair weather fan.
I believe it.
I love it. All right. As we wrap up the show, quick reminder, check out our latest podcast and catch video versions of the show anytime by visiting our website at satalkradio.com. Thanks for hanging out with us for this past hour. You guys have a great week. We'll see you on the next one.